Welcome to Wanderlusting Lawyer, where I talk all things Camino de Santiago, and today specifically, I'll be bringing you a video about the Camino Inglés, which is a route done exclusively in Galicia. I have a few other videos out there if you're looking for a little bit more information about different itinerary options, as well as where to start and how to travel there. But today I specifically wanted to talk about all the places that I stayed on this short but complete whole Camino. You can get your Compostela if you start in Ferrol because it's about 115 kilometers. So I actually have a night negative one because if you watch my logistic video, you know that I flew from Madrid to Santiago, stayed a night in Santiago, and then traveled to Ferrol, stayed a night there, and then started. Why did I start in Santiago? A couple reasons. Logistically, it was just kind of the most direct way to get to the area. And I knew there would be plentiful trains and buses to Ferrol. But I also had a suitcase that I needed to drop off and have wait for me from the prior approximately 2 weeks or so that I had been in France. And so Casa Ivar is a wonderful option. I have an entire video about the luggage storage services he offers, as well as, receiving sent luggage or packages, extra items, whatever you need sent from anywhere in Spain and many other places in Europe. So check out that video if you want more information on that. It's a wonderful service. I can't believe how cheap it is. He should raise his prices. But yeah, so those were the main reasons I started in Santiago. You can also just start in Ferrol. You can directly go to Ferrol and bypass Santiago. But yeah, I actually liked spending a night there. I had been there before, so it wasn't like I was ruining the surprise of walking into Santiago. And in fact, it actually made me more excited to be returning there, 5 or 6 days later, with everything I'd accomplished on the Camino. So it was a good choice all around. I don't regret it. But I needed a place to stay in Santiago, and I wanted to save the really special place for the last night. So I just found another hotel kind of right near the cathedral, more importantly, close to Casa Ivar. And the Uber taxi was able to take me right there from the airport, which is nice because the center area is pretty pedestrian, and I don't think many vehicles have access, but they were able to take me to the front door. And so this is, my -1 night. It was at the Hotel Praza Quintana is the name. I'll write the names below as well. I'm going to be transparent with pricing. It was going back, it was about $200. It was a nice stay. It was a very nice hotel. It was a nice stay. I don't know why I wanted to pay that much when Spain is in general a much cheaper country. I think I got a bunch of extra points through booking through like an American Airlines travel portal or something like that. But it was a wonderful hotel, but there are many, many cheaper options in that same area. So I don't know if I'd stay there again, but there certainly was nothing wrong with it. This is really just a pricing issue. But great location, very nice stay. I slept well and was, prepared to head to Ferrol the next day. So it was a fine stay. Then night 0, right in Ferrol, I actually stayed at the Parador, which I don't think I'd ever stayed at a Parador before. And if you have seen The Way with Martin Sheen, you know that the Parador is where they stay, that super fancy place in Leon. And so basically these are historic or unique buildings that the government of Spain has taken possession of and converted into accommodations. They're usually on the pricier end and are really well kind of situated in either in the city center or have a gorgeous view. I know I've heard the one in Granada is especially amazing. This one in Ferrol, it was really cool. It was $175 for the night. It's an old mansion. I actually couldn't find when it was built. But right by the coast, very close to the starting marker of the Camino, which is nice because most of the places, like the hostels and stuff, are a little bit more into the city center. And so if you want to be, strict about it and start at the actual 0-kilometer Camino marker, you have to head toward like to the what's word am I looking for? The coast, but where the ships dock, whatever that's called, close to the Parador. And so that part was nice, in the morning. I didn't have to go far to start. And a quick word on this. So I don't know. I might have stayed in the albergue. I often don't stay at albergues like the night before I start my Camino because one, I want to be assured a really good night's sleep, no snoring, no rustling, none of that stuff. But I think because I get to walk so few Caminos, I don't get to walk them every year, let alone multiple times a year. I love that first day being a day a little bit like of solitude. I don't mind some company, although I don't think I've ever had company on a first day of any Camino now that I think about it, because my Camino Francés, I started from Horizon at no, not at Horizon, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port at like 11:30 because I knew Horizon wasn't far, and I just like had a leisurely breakfast and this and that, and I was one of the last ones to get to Horizon around, I don't know, 2 p.m. And so I walked alone that day too, but I do like kind of that leisurely first day to just sort of get my head back around like, oh, wow, I'm back on the Camino. This is great. Or maybe I'm not feeling great, whatever it is. So, the albergue though, I think has really good reviews. It opened, I think like July of 2023. So only about a month after I had started, but it's a great, budget option if you are spending a night in Ferrol, which again, I highly recommend. They have really cool things to see there. Good seafood too. Making sure I have all my notes about, yeah, the Parador. It was great. I couldn't even enjoy the breakfast though. I don't remember if it was included or not. Um, but I think it started at like 9, because again, this is Spain, and I wanted to get out before then. So I actually had like a tostada and café con leche near like the 0 kilometer marker. Port. That was the word I was looking for, by the port. Night one was in they call it the Albergue de Peregrinos de Neda, but it's actually in Santa Maria de Neda. There's like a very short bridge that you cross to get to the albergue, and then the town Neda itself is just, yeah, right across the bridge. And it has a couple more like hotel or also hostel options. That's where you're going to find the restaurants and the bars and the things like that. So you'll have to be crossing back over the bridge anyway, but it's an extremely short walk. Yeah, I knew I wanted to stay in the albergue because I think it's really fun after that first day to stay in the albergue to kind of meet people that you'll maybe be walking with some or at least see on and off throughout the rest of the pilgrimage. It has 26 total beds. I thought it was a little bigger than that, but it's kind of just one big room. And then there is one private room with 2 single beds, which I guess is for accommodating pilgrims with maybe some mobility restrictions. And I think this might be a requirement in all of the albergues in Galicia. Now that I think about it, I think they all had this, and I believe they also use it as like overflow if nobody needs those beds, but people arrive and they're available, they'll give them to you like later in the evening. In Neda, people are arriving late. As I said in my itinerary, in my travel video, like how to start the Camino Inglés, people were arriving at like 8:39 because I think they got into Ferrol on one of the later buses that got in around 2 or 3 and just started walking then. So it's definitely an option, and don't be surprised if people are getting there late. And they also have really weird check-in rules. I got lucky because I got there when the woman was cleaning, so was she there? Somehow I got let in, and then we had to like come back and pay later, but we were able to put our stuff in. But now I believe you have to do the check-in at like the local tourism office. So you'll definitely want to check out gronze.com, GRONZE.com, and translate that into English. If you don't speak Spanish, they have the details there. All of the albergues are now 10 euros in Galicia. I think they were 8 when I stayed, and they often require or get very huffy if you don't have 8 euros exactly. Don't you try to give them 10. It was pretty large and comfortable. There was a kitchen. This was one of the only albergues that had actually like pots and pans for cooking. I don't ever cook at albergues, but I did see people making like pasta and rice and stuff. It was a tiny kitchen, but it actually was equipped. And again, this was still on kind of the tail end of the COVID restrictions, so I'm not sure if some of these places may have brought back some of their cooking equipment. All right. Yeah, and there was only one bed left by the end of that night. So it can fill up because it's that first stopping point that especially people starting a little bit later or wanting a short first day stay. Other people go on to Ponte de Ume. That that makes for a pretty long first day though. Night 2 was another albergue. It was the Albergue de Peregrinos de Miño. So I walked through Ponte de Ume up the steepest city incline, at least I have ever encountered on a Camino, and I would venture to say the steepest. How would I phrase this? The most elevation gain in the shortest distance. I wouldn't be surprised if it is Ponte de Ume. This city is like you're at sea level, and then it just goes almost straight up. I mean, I felt like I was like folded in two as I was trying to walk up. So it's definitely a rite of passage on this Camino. And if you post in the Facebook groups and you say you're in Ponte de Ume, everyone's going to say, oh, good luck with that incline to start your day tomorrow. But no, I carried on to Miño. It was a very long day. It was a pretty challenging day. Weather was on and off, but I had awesome pizza and salad in Miño at the Pizzeria Miño, and they have some good vegan and vegetarian options as well, and some Spanish tapas. I like got crap posting about this place in a Facebook group. People are like, "Oh, you go to Spain for pizza?" I don't even engage with things like that, but no, they have other things too. But it's a great place in Miño. And it was one of the only places that opened earlier. I was exhausted, so I was looking to start dinner around like 8, and they were already open. I think they just kind of stay open all day, which was very nice and appreciated. This place is even smaller. It only had 21 total beds, and again, I think there was only one left. I think I got the second to last bed, and I got there around 4 p.m. So can also kind of be like a bottleneck point and fill up. And it's also kind of far off the trail. It's somewhere between like a half kilometer to a full kilometer off the trail. So it is adding a little bit extra. But they're nice facilities. If you saw my Galicia bathroom video, you know that the albergues often have like, they are separated by gender, but there are 2 showers in kind of one stall, no curtains or anything like that. So be prepared for that. And yeah, this one again would have been, I think, the €8. So not much else to say there. Oh, this was the only place that I was on a top bunk because I got there so late, and the person on the bottom bunk was like, I don't know, she was like 18 years old. I wanted to pull the old lady card, but I didn't. And I don't mind getting up and down of the top bunks, but I'm going to make a video maybe about this. What I find almost worse than snoring, I guess it depends, but when someone who's sleeping below you especially is like moves a lot when they're sleeping. I mean, the bunk shook that entire night. I did not sleep well. And the next day is when I made that Camino magic short because I couldn't believe I wasn't more exhausted. All right, night 3. This was maybe my favorite place I've ever stayed on any Camino. It was called Rectoral de Cines. It's a private place. I don't think it's like a casa rural even. Just like a hotel, and it is close to Presedo, there's an albergue in Presedo where a lot of people stay. And what's interesting about that albergue is I saw a big bed rush to get there to stay, or people also left super early from Miño because they'd heard about the bed rush and they wanted to get to the next town. And in the end, it ended up only being like half full, I think, because of all that, because people were expecting it to be fuller and not that many people ended up staying there. It was really small. There was like only one dining option nearby that I heard the place itself is pretty cool, but the food choices weren't great. So if you stay at Rectoral de Cines, and it was €80 for the night, which is like, yeah, kind of expensive on the Camino, but for how nice it was, it's not expensive at all. I want to say that it also included breakfast, and breakfast was incredible. I mean, big breakfast. I don't like to eat that big of a breakfast before I start walking, but that day I did. Dinner was extra, but I still think with like wine and everything included, I don't even know if it was more than €30. So beautiful property, so peaceful. They will come pick you up at the Albergue in Presedo, or I think there are 2 pickup points, but I wanted to kind of, being the like the traditionalist I am, I wanted to walk to Presedo, stop there, get picked up there, and then get dropped off there the next day. So that's what I did. But there are actually signs on the walk that say Rectoral de Cines, and you can walk just like along the road down there. So it's actually quite possible to never have to get into a vehicle to go there. But yeah, I got picked up and dropped off the next day. Slept like a baby. I will say I highly recommend staying there, but I will say you want to book ahead, especially if it looks like your night there is going to fall on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but especially a Saturday because I know they do a lot of weddings. And often those weddings are on Saturdays in Spain. And so I think they only have 12 rooms. So you definitely want to book ahead because those will often all be rented out for weddings. Night 4, the last night actually, like, before, like, walking, was in Outeiro, also called Ordes, and it was the Albergue de Peregrinos de Poulo, Poulo. I could find almost no information on this place. I wasn't even sure if it actually existed, but it was on that gronce.com website, so I said, all right, I think it's there. It is a newer albergue. Until the Albergue in Ferrol was built, it was the newest one, and it's quite big. It's 42 beds. I think only, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 were full when I was there. And I think it can get quite full because it's after the convergence point where the pilgrims who started in Coruña join with everyone who started from Ferrol. But yeah, it wasn't too crowded the night we were there. It's big, it's airy, it's new, it's clean. Although the showers was kind of having like the water wasn't really draining well after the shower. So that was a little bit annoying. But it's 2 levels. All the beds are upstairs, but there are bathrooms downstairs and then some toilets upstairs and sinks. The biggest problem with this albergue is the floors were so squeaky. There was wood and it was so squeaky. It was so loud. I slept okay, but not great. And it was also because it's big and there were so few bodies, it got pretty drafty in there. This was where I loaned my thankfully dry towel to another pilgrim to use kind of as a blanket because she had almost nothing with her. And I was very happy for my travel blanket there. I think that covers it. Oh yeah, that's like the problem is if you don't want to go into the town and which is like a 1 or 1.5 kilometer walk away or call a taxi, show up there with food because there's nothing else nearby. There actually is a really nice place to stay I don't know, 100 feet away, that I was considering staying in, but it was all booked out again for a wedding. So I couldn't stay there, but the town itself was cute. I walked in and then taxied back. Lots of, I think it's Ordes is the town. Lots of restaurants, places to eat, different options, little shops and things like that. And I know some people stay in that town. And it's quite off the route. So I'm not sure if they walk there or how that works, but there are other lodging options there if you don't want to do the albergue. And if the nice place, whose name I can't remember, you'll see it when you look up the Albergue de Peregrinos de Poulo. You'll see it like on the map right by there. But yeah, hopefully that bathroom flooding issue has been resolved in the last 2 years. And then my last night, I got to Santiago and I treated myself, and I'm being transparent, it was $400. Again, I got a bunch of American Airlines points and breakfast was included, but I stayed at the Parador in Santiago. So when you get, I mean, this might be the coolest Parador in existence because when you get into the square, right, as you're walking in and you see the square in front of you, and then you kind of do an about face and there's the cathedral. But as you're walking in, that old looking building on the right, that's the Parador. And I will say I was very grateful. They gave me a room that the windows open. It was a huge room, 2 big beds, big bathroom, big bathtub. The windows opened right into the square. So I sat at my window for like an hour and just watched people arrive. And it was one of the most emotional moments of actually my entire Camino because I was doing it alone, which is always kind of been a sad thing for me. Hopefully one day somebody will want to do it with me. But I saw people like walk in and just embrace their friends or their partners, or like see people that you don't know when they met, but they're like, oh my God, hi, how are you? And I just remembered that same experience from my first Camino the Francés, seeing people I hadn't seen like sometimes in weeks since I'd started, but they'd finished maybe a day before and were sticking around for a bit. And so I think for me, the Parador was that once in a lifetime experience. I would stay again with somebody else. If I were on my own, I wouldn't stay again. Just because like it's just such a I don't it's just a lot of money for for a place to sleep, but it was absolutely worth it to do that one time. And breakfast too is unreal. Breakfast is so good. That's probably the best tarta de Santiago that I've ever had is there. And they had some cheese, and I know I took a picture of it. I had like some cheese that I just couldn't stop eating. I was like, this is the best cheese I've ever had. So that's everywhere I stayed on the Camino Inglés. Go watch my itinerary video because I highly recommend a few more nights. In particular, I would have loved to San Betanzos. It is such a cool medieval walled city. Their tortilla de patatas is incredible. But yeah, I wish I'd had more time. I would probably do this Camino again, but stretch it out a little bit more. There's so many others to do on my list. I'm not sure when I'd have a chance, but I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, please let me know, and I will see you soon in the next one. Buen camino.